This is not a good statistic. More than half of the people who call Cuyahoga County home cannot read at the highest proficiency levels.
That stat coming from the Literacy Cooperative of Greater Cleveland. The group says that staggering number is concerning, not just because people struggle with school or securing jobs, but data shows not being proficient in reading can negatively impact people's health. Low literacy rates also reportedly cost businesses and taxpayers in the U.S. $20 billion every year. The literacy rate in Cleveland is even more concerning, with 66% of residents unable to read, according to Seeds of Literacy. In our commitment to following through on topics that matter to you, I'm checking back in with a Cleveland woman who's now getting a big financial boost to tackle low literacy levels in her community.
We're going to start with some comic books, and then, yay!
Dawn Arrington is constantly on the move.
People know me as the crazy comic book lady.
She stops by popular locations in her Buckeye neighborhood, like this barber shop.
This isn't my full-time job, but it's definitely my full-time passion.
To drop off free comic books as part of her Comics at the Corner campaign.
I love comic books. I learned how to read, reading the funnies on Sunday morning.
I first introduced you to Arrington back in 2018, when she turned to crowdfunding to get her vision for tackling low literacy rates in Buckeye off the ground.
Somewhere between 80 and 90% of the folks are not reading above like a second to fourth grade reading level.
Arrington hopes to create that spark and ignite a love of reading through representation. You're intentional about the comics that you select.
Yes. About 90 to 95% of the comics that we receive generally have people of color on the covers. Or are featured very prominently in the storyline.
I like this one.
So far, Arrington has distributed thousands of comic books to her neighbors.
I think she's really cool because every kid deserves to learn.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Our camera catching the appreciation.
You can take both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Giving out comic books, I think it's pretty lucky for those kids, who don't have any.
And excitement at a recent distribution, where Alexandra Acosta got the last comic book featuring Harley Quinn.
I feel kind of special because it's my favorite character.
Even young people who said they don't really like reading were singing a new tune.
This looks cool, so I might read this.
Ashley Hatcher says that's exactly why something like Comics at the Corner is needed, because it's going to help children get back to something she says has been lost.
It gets them more into reading and wanting to read and help them achieve higher goals with just something so simple.
In our commitment to follow through on programs like this, we wanted to check in on Arrington's progress, and she had a big development for us. You got a huge influx of cash. I was so happy to hear this update.
Yes, so this past summer I was awarded $30,000 through Cuyahoga County Council's ARPA funds.
A huge financial boost that Arrington was not expecting.
And this is for you?
But the impact of her work
I love it!
inspired county leaders.
I did my presentation and more council members started adding money on, and it snowballed from 10,000 to 30,000.
So far, about 6,000 comic books have landed in the hands of her neighbors.
Did you get a good comic book?
And with additional funds, that number will only continue to grow.
People come in and they start going through the books and their faces light up. So there's something, activating about seeing the comic books in and of themselves.
And what Dawn says is so great about the comic books is say that there's a parent that can't read. Mm-hmm. They can, with their children, sit down together if their children are starting to learn to read, and they can follow the story along because of the pictures.
See?
So it can be an all-involved, family event versus just the children going off and doing it.
And I think her passion behind it and that great energy she has that just jumped through the screen just now, that makes people excited about learning how to read.
Yeah.
Making it fun.
She's doing great work. And she said maybe someday they're going to graduate to chapter books, because some young learners were like, what about chapter books? So
Yes, that's a
that
big
might be
deal.
in the works.
All right.
So stay tuned.
Let's keep it going.